Hi there, welcome to Total Shift Yoga and Soundbath. My name is Kat. Today we're going to be working on low back stuff. So often I get questions from my clients about how to feel better and how to relieve some of their pain in their low back. It's just something that we all deal with at some point. So today we're going to start to just scratch the surface with a few things that you can do today to start to get into some of those areas. So if you haven't, grab a towel or a blanket that you can fold up lengthwise, and then I'll meet you on your mat. So the first thing that we'll be doing today is just a nice, easy forward fold. So go ahead and grab your folded up blanket or towel, and you're going to perch your heels on top of that towel. Now the ball toe mounds of your feet will still be on the ground, so it's kind of like wearing a high heel, but much more comfortable. So let your feet be quite a bit more, or a little bit wider than hip width distance. Perhaps even heels slightly in, toes slightly out, but go ahead and take a deep inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, round forward, bend the knees, and just allow yourself to hang heavily here. There is no rule that says that your knees need to be straightened, that your legs need to be straight in a forward fold. So especially here, as we're targeting the low back, allow the knees to bend quite generously so that maybe the rib cage can just kind of drape across the thighs. Let the tension in the neck go, maybe kind of shake your head yes and no a couple of times. Perhaps your fingertips are at the earth. Maybe you grab for opposite elbows, kind of let gravity do the work for you. Or if this is too much, you can even, kind of perch yourself or brace yourself on the edge of a chair. That works as well. Just a couple of breaths in and out through the nose here. And I really want you to think of this practice as kind of like a starting point for your own practice. So if there's ever a point where you want to spend more time in a pose or add something on, feel free to pause the video and then resume when you're ready. So once you've had enough of this forward fold, release the clasp of the elbows if you have it. Turn the toes slightly out, heels in, and allow the hips to drop down towards the earth. Bend the knees as we come into a little squat, frog pose, or malasana pose. Good. So this can be a lot for some of us. So it can be really nice to slide something underneath the sitting bones. It's just a little bit of support there if this is a little bit too much. And in our faster paced or our power type classes, we really focus on lifting the chest and drawing the sitting bones together so that we can get some of that core work in. But here, I want to take more of a restorative approach. So allow the spine to round. Maybe allow the hands to drop down in front of you and let the chin kind of just melt down towards your chest. The more we can get into our hamstrings and our hips, the easier it will be to release some of that tension in the low back. Oftentimes our low back pain comes from tight hips and hamstrings, so it's important to work all of these spaces together. Good. Now when you're ready, lift the gaze. Bring the hands behind you and just come to a seat. Allow yourself to sit down. Remove the blanket or towel. Keep it close by though, and make your way down to your back. So now that you're all the way down to your back, make sure that both feet are firmly planted on the ground. The knees are pointed up to the sky. And you can kind of wiggle walk the feet out about the distance of your mat. So we have a pretty wide stance with the feet. And then coming into constructive resting pose, let the knees fall in towards one another. Just kind of let them rest against each other. And then bring your mind's eye to the low back. And see if you can kind of just flatten your spine against the earth. And just breathe into that space as you start to let some of that tension go. Sometimes relaxing feels like hard work. Just breathe into that. Maybe bring your right hand to your belly and your left hand into your heart. Just close your eyes and just feel the effects of the breath. Nice and even, in and out through the nose. And when you feel ready, release the hands to your sides and wiggle the feet in slightly so that they're just about hip width distance apart, or shoulder width distance apart, maybe. And start to lift your feet one at a time so that the knees are stacked on top of the hips. Your toes are flexed back towards your face. Now, remember that feeling of kind of suturing the low back to the ground. We want to come back to that here. And then from here, take your hands and press them firmly against your thighs. And at the same time, feel your thighs press against your hands. You'll start to notice your abs kick on right away. Now, if this is too much, totally fine. You can bring just the ball toe mounds of your feet to the ground, and you can find the same action here. It's just a little bit more gentle in this space. Totally fine. Alternatively, you can do one leg at a time and kind of alternate. It is 100% up to you. But I think that you'll find, even though abdominal work is not the most fun thing in the world, it does go hand in hand with having a happy low back. One more breath here, you've got it. And then exhale. Now from here, just let your knees fall in towards your chest. Maybe give yourself a hug and just be really mindful and careful here, especially if you are dealing with some low back pain today. Don't force yourself into anything too quickly. Take this practice in your own time. Maybe rock from side to side, or even draw some little circles with your knees on the ceiling just to give your low back a little massage. And when you feel ready, grab behind the backs of your thighs and start to rock and roll up and down the length of your spine. And I encourage you to do this a few times. Let yourself have some fun here. And maybe it feels really good, right? Maybe it feels like a nice little massage all along your back. So do this as much as you need. Do this for as long as you want. And when you feel ready, we'll meet in a seat with the legs crossed in easy pose at the top of your mat. Okay, so now we're at the top of the mat in a comfortable seat in easy pose or sukhasana. And let's start with the left heel closest in towards your body, and then the right heel just in front of that. And let's take that towel or blanket and we will situate it right underneath the sitting bone. So we just have this little bit of elevation. And if you don't have that towel, it is okay. But this just gives a little bit of extra space for the low back. So from here, bring your left hand down to the ground, and as you inhale, sweep your right arm up and overhead. We bend to the left side. And as we bend to the left, think about really rooting the right sitting bone down into the earth as we reach even further over with the right fingertips. Good. Inhale brings you back to center, and then the exhale takes you over to the other side, really working with the breath here. And again, really rooting down through the left sitting bone as you reach even a little further with the left fingertips, finding a little bit of length, hopefully a little bit of stretch in the side body. Inhale brings you back to center. And as you exhale, start to crawl forward just a little bit. Maybe you stay tented up on your fingertips. That might feel really nice. And maybe it feels good to come down to your forearms and let the head hang heavily. And you might slowly, inch by inch, ease your way into something like this because you have plenty of time. Press your palms into the earth, lift yourself back up. Now, keeping your left leg exactly as it is, start to extend the right leg forward. So it's kind of pointed towards the front right corner of your mat. Good. And from here, the left hand comes behind you. It kind of extends tall onto your fingertips like a second spine. Right hand comes to your left knee, and very gently just send your gaze over your left shoulder. So we find a very gentle twist here. We're not using the right hand to twist or crank. We're just using it as a little bit of support here. And then release back to center, back to neutral. And as you exhale, allow yourself to round forward over your extended front leg. Let the chin fall heavily down towards the earth. For some of us, it might feel really nice to prop the forehead up on something. So maybe that's a couple of blocks or books or a couple of pillows. But maybe it feels nice to just hang heavily here. Letting go of anything that is holding on that's not necessary. And then start to push yourself back up as we make our way to the other side. So coming back to our easy pose, this time right heel is closest in, left heel is on the outside. When you're ready, right hand comes down to the earth. Extend the left arm up and overhead, really finding these two opposing directions from left sitting bone to left fingertips, lifting the chest up towards the sky. Good. Inhale brings you back to center. Exhale, straight into the other side. You can kind of push down into the earth with the left hand to find that, that contact with the earth on the right sitting bone. Good. Inhale back to center. And then exhale, fold forward, allowing the spine to round, allowing the chin to melt towards the chest. Now, when you've had enough of that, press into your palms, lift yourself back up, and leave the right foot exactly as it is and extend the left leg nice and long. Good. So the right hand comes behind you, extends nice and tall like a second spine. Left hand comes to your right knee. With a proud chest, just start to send your gaze over the right shoulder. Now again, we're not using this left hand as leverage. We're not trying to crank ourselves into a deeper twist. In fact, if you lift that left hand, you should be able to stay exactly as you are. So maybe test that out. We want to stay very gentle here. Good, release the twist. Come forward again. Take an inhale. And on your exhale, round forward. Allowing yourself to extend and round over this extended front leg. Good. Inhale as you lift yourself back up. Take it nice and easy and slow. And extend both legs out in front of you, about hip width distance apart. Good. Take a deep inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, allow yourself to round forward for caterpillar pose, this seated forward fold. And this is pretty different again from like maybe our power style class. You can allow the spine to really round here. Let the chin melt towards your chest. And if it feels too much on the hamstrings, or if you are one of those that tends to hyperextend, right, and this is uncomfortable on the backs of the knees, you have a couple of options. You can slide a pillow or a blanket underneath the knees, or you can do what I like to do in this pose, which is simply flip your palms so that they're against the mat, flat down on the mat, and slide them underneath your calves. So you just have a little bit of lift, a little bit of bend in the knees. Okay. And then allow yourself to just kind of hang heavily here for as long as you need. I find that the magic in this pose is really in the amount of time that you allow yourself to spend here. Focusing on nice, long, even breaths. In and out through the nose. And now when you're ready, start to lift yourself back up. And in any way that makes sense to you, you'll come down to your belly. So now that you've made it to your belly, we meet in Sphinx Pose. So we're propping the chest up here. Elbows are right underneath the shoulders. Palms are flat on the earth. Maybe even tuck your toes underneath and kind of make your legs a little bit longer, one at a time. Good, and then untuck your toes so the tops of the feet are on the ground, if that feels okay. Now, just to protect your shoulders here, press into the forearms, the elbows, lifting the chest a little bit taller. And now the hard part, see if you can release the glutes here. The glutes do a lot of work to protect the low back, but in this pose, we are experiencing a healthy compression in the low spine. So we're kind of wringing out all of those discs like we would a dirty dish rag. And then when we release this pose, in a few breaths, all of this fresh blood and fresh nutrients will start to flow into those spaces again. So in order to really get the full effect of this pose, really see how relaxed you can make your glutes here. Pressing into your forearms, lifting the chest. One more inhale. And as you exhale, come all the way down to your belly. The arms come to a goalpost shape. The right cheek will rest on the mat here. So we're gazing at our left hand. And when you feel ready, start to slide the left knee so that it's in line with the left hip. So we're coming into a pose that's called half frog pose. The inseam of the left thigh stays on the ground. And if you're looking for a pose that offers a lot of sensation, this is probably not the one. But this can be a really nice release, a really nice counter pose from Sphinx Pose, what we just did. So maybe even allow the eyes to come to a soft close here. Soften the front of the body. Just let it melt into your mat. And just feel the back of the body expand with every inhale. And then come back to its natural state on the exhale. Good. Now slide the left leg back and in line with the right again. And start to draw the arms a little closer together. We come into a second round of our Sphinx Pose. So propping yourself up again. Good. Just picking up where we left off. Now, if this feels really good, then stay. But if you're looking for something a little bit more intense or a different option, you can angle your hands out towards the front corners of your mat, keeping the elbows in slightly. And on your inhale, press into the palms, lift the chest for seal pose. Good, and know that you are in full control over how intense this is. So if you want more intensity, you can walk the hands closer in towards the body. If you want less intensity, you can walk them out. And if you pop up into this seal pose and realize that it is just way too much, no worries, you can always go back to Sphinx. But my challenge to you, wherever you are, even if you're in seal pose, is to release the glutes. Yeah? You'll probably find that you have to remind yourself to release the glutes over and over and over again, but keep doing that. Know that you're safe here. Know that this compression in your spine is healthy. Unless it's sharp or shooting, and if that's the case, peel back a layer. Take one more breath here wherever you are. And then exhale, allow yourself to come all the way down to the ground, goalposting the arms. Left cheek is on the mat. Now we're gazing to the right thumb. Setting up for half frog pose on the other side. Start to slide the right knee up in line with the right hip. Leaving the inseam of the right thigh on the ground. Feeling this sweet release in the low back. With every breath, feeling the front of your body pushing into the ground. And just kind of melting with every exhale. Now, when you're ready, start to slide the right leg back in line with the left. Bring your palms underneath your shoulders. Press into the hands. And on your exhale, come back into child's pose. So big toes together, knees apart, Send your hips back towards your heels and allow yourself to round forward, forehead making contact with something, whether that's the earth or your towel or a pillow. And if you're looking for something a little bit different, maybe bring the thighs together to touch. And perhaps the blanket for underneath your forehead. Let your arms fall down by your sides. And then round forward for a more traditional child's pose or balasana shape. Now, I invite you to perhaps stay here in this child's pose if that feels really good for you. Or if you'd rather, for your Shavasana, find a traditional Shavasana shape, you can turn over onto your back and stretch out nice and long. Close your eyes and enjoy your Shavasana in the most comfortable way that you can. Just kind of soaking in this time, soaking in these sounds. And I'll guide you out when it's time. If you need a little bit more time in your Shavasana or in your time of rest, then I encourage you to pause the video and just rest as long as you need. But if you're ready to move on to make that transition from this part of your practice into the next, then go ahead and start to deepen the breath. Wiggle the fingers and the toes as you make your way to a seat. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you can stay up to date with all of the new videos and content that we're putting out. And if you know someone who you think might benefit from this, then go ahead and share this with them so that others might benefit from this content and so that we can start to grow our community. As always, Jeff and I are so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us at Total Shift Yoga and Sound Bath. Stay tuned for the next video. It will be coming out next week, and we can't wait to see you then. Until next time.